Phase 1. Transformation. Fort Durance. Weeks 1 to 3. Opening movements. Phase 1 did not announce itself. There was no marker, no verbal acknowledgement that receiving had ended and something new had begun. The wolves learned the transition the same way they learned everything at Fort Durance, through change in pressure. Receiving had been blunt force. Phase 1 was precision. The first morning of week 1 began without sirens. That alone was wrong. The wolves stood on the deck before dawn, bodies already braced for impact that did not come. Wind moved across the basin, cold and steady. The drill instructors emerged in silence, boots striking concrete in measured cadence. No shouting, no chaos. Control had replaced shock. The senior drill instructor halted in front of the formation. He did not pace. He did not raise his voice. Phase 1, he said evenly, is where you stop surviving and start changing. He let the word sit. Up to now, we removed what you thought you were. From this point forward, we decide what replaces it. The kill hat smiled. It was not reassuring. Stand by. Before we move to the next objective, muster in the comments. Let us know what sector you're holding down. This channel operates in the dark, off the official net. We don't get found unless we're sought. If this mission matters to you, prove it. Hit like, subscribe. Every signal boosts our signature. Let the rest of the pack know they're not alone. Physical training began immediately and did not end when muscles failed. That was the lesson of the first week. PT was no longer punishment for mistakes. It was baseline existence. Every morning started with forced movement, long-distance runs across uneven terrain with weighted harnesses redistributed daily to prevent adaptation. No 2 days carried the same load pattern. Balance was intentionally sabotaged. Pain became constant. The wolves learned that speed was irrelevant. Consistency mattered. Caldus Reeves injured. Leg screamed with every stride. The corpsman had cleared him for movement with a single phrase. Pain means it's working. He did not slow. Mailer Rusk attempted to power through early runs, burning too hot, too fast. By the 3rd day, he collapsed mid-stride. The kill hat stood over him. You sprint like a predator, he said. You move like a marine. Rusk learned pacing the hard way. Weighted carries followed, dragging, lifting, hauling objects that shifted unpredictably. Logs soaked in water, steel frames that cut into shoulders. Carries performed uphill, downhill, sideways, backwards. Failure earned repetition. Naira Voss discovered quickly that efficiency beat strength. She adjusted grip, posture, breathing. Others followed without instruction. The pack adapted, but now under a shared doctrine, not instinct. Close order drill. Mechanization of instinct. Drill evolved from punishment into precision tool. Quadrupedal formations were refined obsessively. Distance measured in inches. Head height standardized. Turn execution timed down to fractions of a second. You don't think, the kill hat barked. You execute. Natural movement was not eradicated. It was overwritten. Instinctual gait patterns were broken and rebuilt into uniform cadence. Wolves that moved too fluidly were corrected. Wolves that moved too stiffly were corrected. Perfection existed only momentarily. That was the point. Kyle adapted fastest. Not because he was alpha, but because he understood hierarchy. He stopped trying to lead. He focused on alignment. Leadership would come later. Thane Core struggled again, his mind racing ahead of commands. Anticipation earned correction every time. Eventually, he learned to wait. To let commands arrive fully before acting. That delay nearly broke him. Then it became his strength. Doctrine, honor, courage, commitment. Classroom instruction did not resemble learning. Doctrine was delivered verbally, while the wolves held stress positions. Marine Corps history was recited repeatedly, key battles and failures hammered into memory alongside physical strain. "You don't inherit honor," the knowledge hat said calmly. "You earn it daily. Lose it once, and you will spend the rest of your life trying to recover it." Courage was redefined, not aggression, not fearlessness, action under uncertainty. Commitment was not loyalty to the pack, it was loyalty to mission over self. This was where fracture risk peaked. The wolves had been engineered for pack fidelity. Phase 1 demanded something different: submission to an abstract structure larger than the pack itself. Some resisted quietly. Tauren Black Mare bristled when ordered to hold position, while another recruit failed. Territorial instinct flared. Correction followed. "You don't move for yourself," the kill hat snarled. "You move for the unit." The word unit replaced pack in official language. That distinction mattered. First aid. Violence under. Control medical training began midweek 2. Combat life-saving was taught not as care, but as task execution under duress. Simulated wounds were inflicted mid-PT. Tourniquets applied while heart rates spiked. Evacuation drills performed under time pressure. Caldus Reeve practiced stabilizing others while ignoring his own injury. Corin Vale learned quickly, hands steady, movements efficient. Edric mirrored her timing without conscious thought. The drill instructors noticed again. This time they separated them intentionally during drills. Dependence was not allowed yet. PUSI-MAP, Restraint over Ferocity. Introduction to Marine Corps. Martial arts program came without ceremony. No speeches, no mystique. "Your natural violence is insufficient," the instructor stated flatly. Unarmed techniques were taught first. Control holds, joint manipulation, takedowns designed to neutralize without killing. The wolves struggled. Killing was easy. Stopping was hard. Ciela Thorne, nearly broken, instructor's arm before correction, landed hard across her flank. "You don't decide when force escalates," the instructor snapped. "We do." Edged weapon familiarization followed. Controlled, deliberate. Improvised weapons came last. Everything was framed around restraint, teamwork, authority. Violence was no longer instinctive. It was regulated. Confidence, destruction and reconstruction. Midway through week 3, the drill instructors changed approach. Praise appeared. Not often, not loudly. A nod, a withheld correction, a single phrase. Acceptable. That was enough. Confidence-building exercises followed. Problem-solving under fatigue, tasks designed to be completed only through cooperation and communication. Success was possible now. Failure was still punished. The wolves began to think differently. Not as animals reacting. Not as assets obeying. As Marines in formation, executing doctrine. By the end of week 3, they stood differently. Still exhausted, still injured, still afraid, but aligned. Phase 1 was not complete. It had only set the foundation. Phase 2 would put weapons in their hands, and Fort Durance would see what remained. Fort Durance, weeks 2 to 3, authority, friction, obedience. By the middle of week 2, the drill instructors stopped treating the wolves as a collective problem. They began treating them as individual liabilities. That was when Phase 1 truly started. The senior drill instructor changed how he walked the line, no longer pacing evenly. Now he stopped, abruptly, without pattern, directly in front of a single wolf and stayed there. Too close, inside instinctive space, close enough that breath and scent mixed. "Look at me," he told Tauren Black Mare. Torin did not move. "Did I say you could decide where to look?" Torin corrected instantly, eyes forward, posture locked. The senior DI leaned closer. "Your body says you want to own space. Your posture says you think space belongs to you." He tapped Torin's chest with 2 fingers. "Nothing here belongs to you." He stepped back. "Fix it." Torin spent the next hour holding a stress position while the rest trained around him, not punished loudly, not humiliated theatrically, simply removed from usefulness. That was worse. Phase 1 introduced something receiving never allowed: conversation. Not friendly, not explanatory, but deliberate verbal engagement designed to provoke thought under authority. The knowledge hat addressed Kyle directly during a drill halt. 031, he said calmly. "Why are you here?" Kyle did not answer. The kill hat stepped in instantly, baton raised. "Answer." Kyle opened his mouth and stopped himself. The senior DI raised a hand. The baton lowered. "That pause," the senior said quietly, "was correct." He stepped closer. "You don't answer until the hierarchy allows you to." He turned to the knowledge hat. "Ask again." "Why are you here?" the knowledge hat repeated. Kyle answered this time. "To serve." The senior DI nodded once. Acceptable. Not praise, permission. Others were not so fortunate. Thane Kor's mind remained his greatest weakness. During a drill evolution, commands came rapidly. Left, halt, right, down. Thane anticipated one sequence too early, shifting weight before the command finished. The kill hat was on him instantly. "You think you're smart?" Thane froze. "You think thinking makes you better?" The baton struck the ground inches from Thane's foreleg. "Thinking makes you late." Thane was ordered to repeat the sequence alone, while the rest held formation. Every anticipation earned a restart. Every hesitation earned correction. The senior DI watched without expression. At the end, Thane trembled, not from exhaustion, but restraint. The senior DI stepped in. "You don't stop thinking," he said. "You delay it." He leaned in. "Control the urge, then you'll be useful." That was instruction. Naira Voss drew a different kind of attention. She spoke little, moved cleanly, corrected herself before instruction arrived. The knowledge hat tested her openly. Mid-PT, he altered a command sequence deliberately out of pattern. Naira adjusted instantly, correctly, without visible hesitation. The kill hat noticed. "You think you're special?" Naira did not react. "You think you don't need us?" Naira held position. The senior DI intervened. "She didn't disobey," he said. "She executed." He turned to Naira. "You're efficient," he said. "That makes you dangerous." Naira's ears twitched, barely. "Dangerous recruits get watched," he continued. "Closely." From that point on, Naira was tested constantly. Unclear commands, conflicting instructions, stress layered onto complexity. She did not fail. She did not excel. She endured. Mela Rusk's confrontation came publicly. During a load carry evolution, his grip slipped, not from weakness but impatience. The object struck the ground. The sound echoed. Silence followed. The kill hat turned slowly. "Oh," he said. "Oh, that's interesting." Rusk was ordered to the center of the deck. "You think you're strong," the kill hat said conversationally. "Strong things break when pushed wrong." He gestured to the formation. "Everyone else, watch." Rusk was given the heaviest load. Alone, required to carry it back and forth across the deck without pause. When his muscles failed, he was ordered to continue. When his legs shook, he was ordered to stabilize. The senior DI watched closely. At the breaking point, not collapse, but defiance. The senior stepped in. "Enough!" The kill hat stopped instantly. The senior faced Rusk. "You are not here to prove strength," he said. "You are here to submit it." Rusk lowered his head. Not broken. Aligned. The instructors addressed the bond between Edric and Corin directly. During a navigation drill, they were placed in opposing task groups deliberately. Conflicting objectives. Limited communication. Edric hesitated once, just long enough to be noticed. The kill hat corrected him sharply. "You don't track her," he snarled. "You track the mission." Later, the senior DI spoke to Corin privately, quietly enough that others could not hear. "Attachment is not loyalty," he said. "It's risk." Corin held his gaze. "She makes you predictable," he continued. "We remove predictability here." The next drill placed them back to back under simulated stress, noise, darkness, time pressure, but forbidden from acknowledging one another. Both complied, barely. The bond did not break, but it bent. By the end of week 3, the wolves understood something critical. The drill instructors were not trying to dominate them. They were mapping them. Every correction logged, every hesitation catalogued, every strength paired with a weakness. The senior DI addressed them as a unit one evening, voice carrying without effort. "You are no longer blank slates," he said. "Now your problems." He paused. Phase 1 is about discipline. Phase 2 is about weapons. A thin smile crossed his face. "We'll see what you do when you're dangerous and obedient." The wolves stood in formation, muscles aching, minds sharpened by friction. They were no longer resisting. They were no longer guessing. They were adapting. Phase 1 was nearly complete. Something harder was coming. Fort Durance, end of week 3. When obedience is no longer enough. No announcement, no transition brief, just a subtle change in how the drill instructors looked at the wolves. They stopped correcting immediately. That silence was worse than the baton. On the first morning of the final week, the wolves stood in formation under overcast skies. Wind pushed low clouds across the basin, flattening sound. The drill instructors took their positions, but no one spoke. Minutes passed. Then more. Muscles began to burn. Joints stiffened. Balance demanded constant micro-adjustment. Still no commands. The kill hat moved slowly along the line, boots deliberate, eyes searching for cracks. He stopped behind Ciela Thorne and leaned close to her ear. "You're waiting," he murmured. "That's instinct." Ciela did not move. Waiting means you expect direction. He straightened and raised his voice suddenly. "You don't expect." The shout snapped across the deck. Several wolves flinched, not visibly but internally. The kill hat smiled. The senior drill instructor stepped forward at last. "Phase 1 ends when you stop reacting to us," he said evenly, "and start reacting to standards." He gestured once. "Move." No direction beyond that. Chaos threatened. Then Cale stepped forward. One pace, exactly regulation distance. He halted. Others followed, aligning instinctively, spacing correcting itself through shared understanding rather than command. The senior DI watched closely. "That," he said, "was leadership." He turned to Kyle. "And it wasn't authorized." Correction came immediately. Kyle was ordered out of formation and placed in a static stress position, facing the rest. "You don't lead unless told," the senior said calmly, "even when you're right." Kyle held position. Muscles screamed. He did not lower his head. The lesson landed. Phase 1's final days were defined by direct confrontation. The drill instructors spoke, to the wolves individually, often quietly, forcing them to listen rather than react. The knowledge hat approached Joran Pike during a navigation evolution. "You see everything," he said. "That makes you dangerous." Joran remained still. "Tell me," the knowledge hat continued, "what happens when you see something you're not cleared to act on?" Joran answered carefully. "I wait." The knowledge hat nodded. "And while you wait?" "I track." A pause. "Acceptable," the knowledge hat said. "But remember, information without discipline gets people killed." He walked away, leaving the words to settle. Thane Core was tested deliberately. During a complex drill combining movement, verbal doctrine recall, and load redistribution, commands were layered rapidly. Thane executed flawlessly until the senior DI changed a command midstream. Thane hesitated, just long enough. The kill hat was on him. "Stop!" The formation froze. The kill hat stepped into Thane's space. "That hesitation," he said quietly, "was a decision." He turned to the senior DI. "Permission to break him." The senior DI studied Thane for a long moment. "Granted," he said. Thane was put through a controlled failure loop, repeating the same drill under increasing fatigue, each mistake compounding the next. No yelling, no violence, just relentless repetition. Hours passed. Finally, Thane executed the sequence perfectly, not because he anticipated, but because he let go. The senior DI stopped the evolution. "That," he said, "is obedience without surrender." Thane collapsed to a knee when dismissed. No one helped him up. He rose on his own. Naira Voss faced a different challenge. During MCMAP integration, she was paired against an instructor trained to provoke aggression, feints, near misses, deliberate vulnerability. Naira struck cleanly, controlled, efficient. Then the instructor deliberately exposed his throat. Instinct surged. "Naira!" stopped. The instructor smiled. "Why didn't you take it?" he asked. Naira answered without emotion. "Not authorized." The instructor nodded and turned to the senior DI. "She's ready," he said. Ready did not mean safe. Mailer Rusk's final test came at dusk. He was ordered to lead a small unit through a problem-solving evolution under time pressure. Conflicting objectives, limited information, artificial stress layered onto exhaustion. Rusk took command instantly, too forcefully. The unit completed the task, but inefficiently. The senior DI addressed him afterward. "You succeeded," he said, "and you failed." Rusk did not respond. "You imposed yourself," the senior continued. "You didn't integrate." He stepped closer. "Strength without alignment is chaos." Rusk lowered his head. The senior paused. "Do it again." The second attempt was different. Rusk listened, adjusted, delegated. The task took longer. It succeeded cleanly. The senior nodded. "Better." That was the closest thing to approval Rusk had ever received. The final night of Phase 1 ended with a forced march. No destination given. Full load. Uneven terrain. Silence enforced. The wolves moved together, not as a pack reclaiming instinct, but as a unit executing doctrine. Spacing held, pace regulated, adjustments made without signal. Kyle no longer pulled forward. He aligned. Edric and Corin maintained distance without losing awareness. Neera and Elowen compensated for others subtly. Caldus Reeves' leg held. They reached a ridgeline overlooking Fort Durance as dawn broke. The senior drill instructor stood facing them. "Phase 1 is complete," he said. "You are disciplined." He scanned the formation. "That does not make you Marines." A pause. "It makes you capable of becoming dangerous without losing control." He stepped aside. "Phase 2 will put weapons in your hands." The kill hat grinned. "That's where accidents happen." The wolves stood in formation, exhaustion etched into every line of their bodies, but something else present now. Not instinct, Not fear. Doctrine. Phase 1 was over. They had been transformed, and Fort Durance was ready to arm them. Phase 2, Marksmanship Fort Durance, weeks 4 to 6. Fort Durance changed character during Phase 2. The parade deck disappeared. In its place, known distance ranges, shoot houses, moving target rails, elevated firing towers, and wind flags snapping in the basin crosswinds. The instructors changed too, less shouting, more scrutiny, because now mistakes carried terminal implications. Weapon introduction, zero tolerance. The knowledge hat took over. M4 platform, he said, modified. The rifles had been adapted, trigger guards reshaped, foregrips re-engineered for claw engagement. Sling systems distributed recoil across shoulder harnesses rather than human anatomy. But the core was unchanged, lethal, precise, unforgiving. Weapon safety, the knowledge hat continued, is not negotiable. He demonstrated negligent discharge consequences without theatrics, ballistic gel blocks shredded, steel plates punched through. No dramatics, just physics. You don't get instinct here, he added. You get procedure. The kill hat stepped forward. Anyone discharges without authorization, training ends. No one asked what that meant. They already knew. The first days were dry fire only. No ammunition. Just repetition. Mounting drills, sight alignment, trigger control adapted for claws and reinforced pads. The wolves struggled. Instinct fought discipline. Joran Pike compensated too aggressively, jerking the rifle into alignment. Correction followed immediately. Naira Voss adjusted silently, micro-corrections barely visible. The kill hat noticed and deliberately disrupted her stance mid-drill. "Don't get comfortable," he snapped. Trigger discipline was drilled obsessively. "Your finger doesn't exist unless ordered," the kill hat barked. Mailer Rusk nearly failed here, his frustration visible, muscles coiled, violence wanting release. The senior drill instructor stepped in personally. "You don't trust restraint?" he said, quietly. "That makes you unsafe." Rusk froze. "You will learn to wait," the senior continued, "or you will not continue." Rusk learned. The first live ammunition was issued at the 36-yard line. Zeroing is not glamorous. It is mathematics. The knowledge hat stood behind the firing line with a spotting scope. "You don't adjust your ego," he said evenly. "You adjust your sights." Each wolf fired 5-round groups from prone. Kyle's first grouping was tight, but 2 inches low left. "Diagnosis," the knowledge hat demanded. "Anticipation," Kyle answered. "Correction?" "Breath discipline. Trigger reset." Approved. Edric's grouping was almost unsettling. 5 rounds within a space smaller than a coin. The kill hat stepped behind him. "You lucky?" he asked. "No, Staff Sergeant." "Good, because luck doesn't scale." They adjusted optics, confirmed mechanical zero, and repeated. For hours. Zeroing wasn't about hitting a target. It was about building a relationship between eye, trigger, and consequence. By dusk, the wolves understood something essential. A rifle magnifies error. Combat conditioning. Fire and movement, where physiology fights physics. This was where the training stopped being static. Combat conditioning was not just shooting under stress. It was forcing the body into oxygen debt, muscular failure, and adrenal overload, then demanding precision. The kill hat addressed them at the start of the first evolution. You will fire when exhausted. You will move when suppressed. You will think while drowning in lactic acid. He pointed toward a 400-meter assault lane. You are not training to shoot paper. You are training to move through death. Phase 1. Heart rate. Spike. Each wolf began with 400-meter sprint under full combat load, immediate transition to prone, Engage 8 steel silhouettes at 100 to 300 meters. Mandatory reload. Mid-string. Controlled breathing before. Final 2 shots. Heart rates were pushing 180-plus beats per minute. The first run was ugly. Shots scattered high. Trigger slaps returned. The knowledge hat didn't yell. He just said, "Your pulse is moving the muzzle." They were taught combat breathing cycles. 4 count inhale, 4 hold, 4 exhale, 4 reset, not to calm down, to stabilize reticle drift under cardiovascular stress. By the 3rd iteration, something shifted. Kyle adapted quickly. His control under elevated heart rate was almost clinical. His strength allowed him to settle faster into supported positions. But Edric slowed down. Not physically, internally. Where others fought their pulse, he absorbed it. His shots came at the natural pause between beats. The kill hat watched that carefully. Phase 2, bounding overwatch. Now they moved as a unit. 2 wolves suppress, 2 wolves move. Terrain uneven, dust thick. Targets reactive and unpredictable. Commands were limited to hand signals and clipped verbal cues. Set. Move. Contact. Front. The challenge wasn't shooting. It was spacing, fields of fire and not crossing muzzles. Taurin Blackmare once cut too close across Naira's lane. The kill hat physically slammed him down into the dirt. You just killed her. Silence. They reset and ran it again. The wolves learned to maintain 5 to 7 meter lateral separation, fire-controlled pairs, not emotional bursts, shift sectors before moving, announce reloads, cover dead ground. They practiced high crawl, low crawl, lateral shifts under suppressive fire simulation. Then the instructors escalated. Smoke deployed. Flashbangs detonated mid-movement. Simulated casualty calls injected. Man down. Now fire and movement became casualty evacuation under suppression. Caldus Reeve, despite his lingering injury, volunteered to be drag-tested repeatedly. Kyle once overcommitted forward during a bounding maneuver. The senior D-Wow halted the lane. You advanced without support, he said. I had visual superiority. You had ego. That landed. Next iteration, Kale waited half a second longer. That half second saved theoretical lives. Phase 3, shoot house. Live fire close quarters. Stack formation adapted for wolf physiology. Angles mattered. Muzzle discipline mattered more. Live rounds. Real walls. Real ballistic consequences. The wolves cleared rooms under. No light conditions. Strobe disruption. Simulated civilian presence. Split-second shoot/no-shoot decisions. Naira excelled here. Her restraint was surgical. Mela nearly failed, hesitating at a silhouette holding a weapon-shaped object. It turned out to be non-hostile. The senior DI debriefed him personally. You hesitate to avoid killing. That's good. He leaned closer. But hesitation cannot look like confusion. Distinction absorbed. Sniper systems. Patience over predation. Sniper training began in week 5. Different range, different silence. Bolt-action platforms modified for wolf ergonomics. Bipods reinforced. Suppressors mounted. Optics, high magnification. The instructor for this block was not loud. He was precise. Snipers do not hunt, he said. They decide. Kyle's physiology gave him advantages. Muscular stability in prone, natural dominance, in recoil absorption, exceptional peripheral awareness. But the real advantage was psychological. Kyle had always led from the front. Sniper work forced him to lead from invisibility, to influence a battlefield without being seen. It balanced him. It taught him that dominance could be quiet. His shot cadence was deliberate, his wind calls accurate, his breathing disciplined. The sniper instructor noted, your leadership becomes safer when you're not visible. Kyle understood. This training tempered him. Edric Vale. Edric was different. Where Kyle stabilized, Edric disappeared. He could hold still longer than anyone. Wind flags shifted. Dust devils crossed lanes. Mirage distorted optics. Edric compensated instinctively. But it wasn't instinct. It was pattern recognition. He calculated wind speed from grass displacement, humidity from scent density, mirage angle from heat, shimmer, bullet drop without visible math. His 600-meter grouping was extraordinary. The sniper instructor didn't praise him. He asked one question. "What are you thinking when you're waiting?" Edric answered quietly. Nothing. That was the answer they were looking for. Because snipers who think too much hesitate. Snipers who feel too much rush. Edric existed in the pause. Why a designated marksman matters in a specialized wolf unit. A designated marksman isn't just a long-range shooter. He is the overwatch anchor, the pace regulator, the force equalizer, the early warning system, the quiet veto against reckless advance. When the pack wants to surge, the marksman says, "Wait." When chaos erupts, he deletes the most dangerous node. During a simulated platoon exercise, instructors embedded moving armored silhouettes at 700 meters. Only Edric engaged successfully. 2 shots, 2 neutralizations, no correction needed. The senior DI watched through binoculars. "Designated marksman," he said simply. It wasn't ceremony. It was assignment. From that moment, every movement drill subtly integrated Edric as Overwatch, and something shifted in the pack dynamic. They trusted him, not because he was loud, but because when he said clear, it was clear. Final evaluation. Qualification day. The final qualification combined everything. 500-meter, known distance moving targets, timed reloads, stress sprint before final string, night fire confirmation, sniper confirmation shot at extended range, each wolf passed, but not equally. Edric qualified expert. Kyle just below him. The senior DI addressed them one last time at the range. "You are no longer dangerous by accident," he said. "You are dangerous by calibration." He scanned the line. And calibration requires constant maintenance. Weapons were cleared. Bolts locked. Back. Silence returned to the range. Phase 2 didn't make them killers. It made them precise. And precision is what separates monsters from professionals.